Hello everybody and welcome to the GMS Magazine weird videos. And I say weird because in these kind of live action videos, I just go from the beginning until the end to show you something interesting, whether it is something I'm learning painting or, like it is in this case, a review of Illwinter's Floorplan Generator, which is an incredibly simple to use map generator, more like a cave generator for your encounters or whatever it is that you want to use it for. Now it has its limitations, but it costs $5. Is it worth it? Well, check out. This is going to be a fairly quick video because the software is quite simple with a few things to show. So before I start, please remember to subscribe to the channel, which I'm going to be telling you about during the video, please, because I love to have you around. And if you already have this software, or if you don't, or if you have any questions about it, by all means, do leave me your comments down there. Above all, remember to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this video. Now, Illwinter's Floorplan Generator is to generate floor plans. So if you're going to do a map for world, continents, and stuff like that, this is not going to be the right map to do it because it serves a very specific purpose. Now, when you start it, the first thing you're going to see is this screen. You have to have Steam. This is a Steam-powered piece of software. Nothing to do with me. You just have to have your Steam account. And you can see your floor plan editor, your random dungeon scheme editor. I don't use this because it limits the number of tools that you can or cannot use or have access to. I don't like that. Then you have your preferences and you can have mods, your credits, or say goodbye. There are several mods for free that you can download just by subscribing to some people in Steam. Well worth doing it because they give you a lot more textures, they give you a lot more icons that you are going to want to use in your creations. So let's start with the Floorplan Editor. When you edit, the first thing you're going to see is a 1x1 sheet covered in stone. That's it. And this is just one sheet of map, so it's not very big at all. We can change that, and I'm going to show you how to do it in a minute. Let me guide you through the interface. On the top left, you have what you're going to be painting with. This is your texture. So you get some instructions. So with the right click, you can select the terrain under the cursor, or with the mile button, you can scroll them up. So let's try. Shall I show you? If I click, you start to generate the floor to what would appear to be a cave. If we click with the right button, you're just selecting it underneath, so it does nothing. The wheel zooms in and out. And if you press the wheel of the mouse, it will allow you to pan this whole map. If we click, we'll see the rest of the textures, but we will go into that in a minute. No, not yet. Let me show you first what the rest of the plan is all about. Control Z as usual, undo what we have done. The file menu will allow you to load and save your maps, export them and print, kind of. Let me show you that in a bit. And then set up the external programs. Load and save. Come on, I'm not going to tell you what those things do. Import ASCII dungeon. This is a feature that I have never had the need to use. I'm not very familiar with ASCII, so I've never used it. But when you export print your dungeon, and you click on it, you will see first page of the dungeon map, the title you want to print it with, skip wall only pages. You can put more than one page, one on top of the other, by the way. You can export all levels, and you can do a 3D projection. I will export one map later so you can see exactly what it does. And then you can include the height map. Let's cancel this. And then the quick PNG to JPEG, it does just that. This is a standard JPEG, blown, and that's it, done. Setting up external programs will allow us to use, if we want to use, for instance, Photoshop, or that's the one I use, or you can use MediaBang or GIMP, whatever. Illwinter doesn't care what you use, you just have to point it into where it's meant to go. Or if you're using something like a different PDF viewer, you can also use that. You can import new icons and new terrains, and you can set up the paper, which in this case would be an A3 landscape, and the square size would be 1 inch. But again, you can change that. The graphic settings will allow you to use this as full screen, use it as a window, which is what I'm doing right now, or of a borderless full screen window. Now this has a very interesting use that I like, and is that if you're one of those really fortunate people who can use a monitor on your desk whilst you're playing, you can print or have on your tablet, for instance, a PDF or a JPEG of your map, and then you go drawing onto the borderless screen as you go along, just to show people where they're going without giving away the full dungeon from the start. I like that. That's pretty good. And then the frames per second. Large maps will take an awful lot of the graphic resources of your computer. So having this at 30 frames per second will significantly increase the speed at which it works rather than having it at 60 or 120 frames per second. There are loads and loads of keyboard shortcuts. It is worth familiarizing yourself with as many as you possibly can. Excuse me. Because they add an awful lot of really cool functionality to what otherwise a very simple software to use. The settings will allow you to have no grid, decide what grid you want to use, whether it is a square with thin, medium or thick lines, a hex or a brick grid, and the grid scale factor, that you can make it bigger or smaller to make it fit. You know, if you make the grid smaller, then the whole thing will look way bigger. That's just how it is. The grid color, anything you can change in here. The light, you can have no shadows, which will give you a flat map. I don't like it. Dungeon or outdoor shadows, they just change a little bit the orientation, or whether they're directional or not, and the strength. The wall lights if you want them on, and then just draw the walls as usual, almost black or it's white. And then if you want to see non-partial or full icons, by default it goes to full because it makes sense. Right, so the enlarge will allow you to move the world one step up, one step left, right or down, and this is just literally moving it. And the wall size is 16 by 11 square, this is the standard, but you can make it way bigger, way bigger. However, remember that the bigger this is, the more resources it's going to suck up from your computer. So you have to be careful when you want to do something mega huge. The edge paint is going to allow us to do just that. Paint on the edge of the grid. One by one, it's randomized, fractal generated, one square and a bit sometimes. That is good for corridors. 2 by 2 really gives us a little bit more room to make things bigger. 3 by 3 is exactly as it names, 3 by 3. 5 by 5 is 5 by 5. It's pretty self-explanatory. And the bucket fill, do I need to explain this? Okay. It will fill the whole thing up, which is not something we want. The selection rectangle will allow you to select things like, when you place on icons or not, and you can, and here, always remember to the top left, you get the instructions. So instructions, not extractions, instructions. And the pan is just allowing you to pan this, which you don't need to do anyway. What else do we have here? One by one. Right, if we click on the texture, a second, there you go. This appears. This is the selection of everything that you can choose to create your floor plans. So you get your active terrains, indoor terrains, walls, space for a sci-fi sort of walls, and then you get the black and white for a more, kind of OSR feeling to the whole thing. They blend rather well. So if we select, for instance, the deep water, and we want to start a river here, they blend pretty well, and the texture is not very easily tileable. If you make very large ones, then you will see the tiling, but otherwise you don't. That's it. Some texture work better than others. For instance, if we decide the width alone, personally I don't rate this one very highly because it's too saturated compared with the rest, and it just doesn't work all that well. You can change the elevation. This is quite interesting. Let's come back to dirt, and we're going to do change in the dirt ground here. See how it works pretty well. Let's assume that you want to change the elevation, so you want something to be deeper than something else. With the plus or the minus keys in your keyboard, you can make that happen. So if we click right now on the elevation -1, can you see here, top left, how it's changed to -1, and we click, we can see a little bit of a shadow. If we do a number 2, the shadow is deeper, and if we do a number 3, the shadow is even deeper, so we have kind of like the steps going down. You can add levels by clicking on these buttons here, and the levels, yes, they do behave like that. More levels, loads of level. Why? Because if this, for instance, goes down, we can start them up here, and that's the new level. If you want to make the walls something else, like cave wall, you can either paint, or in the settings you can tell it that what's in the settings, beg your pardon, somewhere that I can't remember. Somewhere that I can remember what it is. That's what happens when I never use these things. You figure it out. I'm here to show you how it works. You figure it out. I don't care. However, when you export these, remember that each one of these is going to export to a different graphic, so that's pretty good, I like it. And now we go on to the icons. Now these are the icons with some of the mods that I have installed already. There are plenty of them. Loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, from very simple cave things like tables or stones, some fireplaces, and bones. Now look at, remember what I told you about the familiarizing yourself with the shortcuts. It is worth it, because each one of these, look at all the things you can do just by adding a keystroke. So you can make things This is suddenly the skeleton of a giant. Yes, it's going to rescale them. We are talking very low resolution icons, so they're not all going to rescale very well. That's just how it goes. Some of them will rescale better than others, but generally they're cut to size, so get used to it. This is one of the limitations. It's not vector software. It's pixel, so we are limited. But to be honest, considering how quick it is, I have zero complaints. Truly, zero. And there are an awful lot of icons. Some more useful than others, because having like planets, I don't know, I cannot see myself using that, but hey, whatever. But you have an awful lot of sci-fi structures, vehicles, more vehicles, ships. So worth remembering, and then you can add some text to whatever you click, and you can put this is the skeleton, and there it goes. This is pretty much it in order to create things. Now, if we go to export print dungeon, it has a some very interesting features, like you can export all levels, skip wall only pages. You can do a 3D projection. Let's try that, shall we? And I'm going to export directly to my paint program, which in my case is Photoshop. Ta-da! Now, the cool thing, you get an isometric view pretty much generated right away, which is very cool. But the structures are not 3D, so they're going to appear all flattened. So kind of doesn't work completely if you're going to have structures to it, but if this is going to be just your floor plan, this is a very cool way to present them. If you just export the normal one, this is what you get, just your standard map. Now, this is exported on 72 dpi. That means that if you want to publish this, it's not really going to work very well because the resolution is not very high. But for yourself, for your table, this should suffice. This should be all right. And just so you know that because the texture is so intricate, if you try to upscale this, yes, you get a lot of artifacts, which is not, it's just not cool. It just doesn't look very good. This is it. This is Illwinter Floorplan Generator. I know it's very difficult to pronounce. I know that by now you have already subscribed, so thank you for that. Leave me your comments down there. And by all means, do get this software, seriously. For $5, I cannot fault it. Yes, it lacks an awful lot of capabilities that more professional software can give you. But it's $5. And if you just want to create something quick, sometimes even on the go, just to test the waters, just to see how things can work or not, yeah, very highly recommended. Thank you very much. If you have watched all the way to this point, very, very much appreciated having you there. Leave me your comments because I truly and genuinely love to hear from you. Give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you very soon indeed. Take care.